Hello and welcome back to the Outdoor Station and this brief little video where we're going to take a look at some of the survival equipment, emergency equipment that's on the market today. We get a lot of questions from many of our listeners and viewers about what is the right kind of equipment to use in different circumstances. Although we're no expert on that, I thought it might be an idea to run through some of the options available to you so that you can check them out for yourself and see which one suits your particular needs. Be you a day walker, a long distance hiker, a backpacker, a traveller, a cycle tourist, or even a motorcycle traveller, there are many things which are currently available which could be useful to you and perhaps save your life or somebody else's. So let's venture out onto the hills on a very, very cold day to look at the features and benefits of each of the items. Well, as you can see, we've chosen the perfect day to run through some of these items. We're on the top of the Malvern Hills. As you can see, it's slightly cold. There's a bitter east wind whistling across the top here, and I'm hoping the wind noise is not going to kill some of the things I'm going to say. But I'm going to just run through a few survival products, I suppose, for conditions like this and possibly other conditions, and we'll just briefly talk about the details. I'm sure people will recognise this. This is a good old favourite survival bag. This is the one I've had in my rucksack for 20 odd years. It's just a huge, great fertiliser bag. It's the simplest and the kindest way to talk about it. It is heavy duty plastic and it obviously rolls out to form a big bag with an entrance at one end and it's sealed all around the other way. Now this weighs almost half a kilo and as I say, it is 20 years old, and these are still on the market, slightly lighter, but as an item, ideal for a survival situation, but really they don't really have many other uses. And one of the things that we're particularly keen on is trying to get several uses out of each item to make you carry less in your bag. You know, for what it is, it does the job, but I don't like carrying it anymore, and we'll come on to other items and explain that in more detail. The way you're supposed to use these is cut a hole in the bottom, would you believe? In a survival situation, you get in head first as opposed to feet first, and you cut a hole at the end for you to breathe out, and obviously then you are completely enclosed and away from the cold wind and the weather, and you're getting your body temperature back up. But obviously circumstances dictate exactly what you do and what you can do. But that is the old favourite. Now, another old favourite that goes with that is, of course, the emergency blanket. Again, I'm not going to open this because it's large, but this is you've seen these when people finish the marathon, and again, it's very, very thin foil, reflective heating that you wrap around you and keeps you as warm as it can be. But more of I suppose I wouldn't say it's a casual item, as opposed to if I was doing a serious mountain walk, I wouldn't take this and I wouldn't take that. I'll come on to the items I would take. But for, should we say, a place like this, Malvern Hills, not the highest peaks in the world, but if you're out for a day and you might slip, you might twist your ankle, you might come across somebody else that's done that, and having one of these in your bag could save them from getting hypothermia, because it won't take very long for an older person to get hypothermia in conditions like this if they come out in their Sunday best and they slip. The other thing about this material as an item is as an alternative use. People sometimes use them as a ground sheet protector to add a sort of another heat barrier underneath the ground sheet of shelter. You can do that. I've tried it, but sadly you can probably hear this. That's what you hear all night long. It sounds like you're sleeping in a basket full of crisp packets. The other thing about these is they're fantastic when they arrive like this in the packet, but when you've used them once, as I have done here, trying to stash them away, they're a nightmare, and they just take up a lot of space. The same actually goes for this. Again, a superb item if you need it in those sort of conditions, but when you come to put it away afterwards, it traps so much air, it's virtually impossible to pack down. So these, if you like, are the traditional items that you will have seen over the years, and I'm sure many of us have carried them. However, things have moved on. Now, the equivalent of this heavy-duty plastic bag is this item. Now, as I say, this is almost half a kilo, 500 grams. This is the Adventure Medical Emergency Bivvy, and as you can see, considerably smaller and just over 100 grams. This has got an interesting manufacturing characteristics, in the sense that it's got the familiar orange durability of a sort of a plastic finish on the outside, but on the inside it's lined with the foil, as in the foil that's been used in this foil blanket. So you've got the best of both worlds. The other thing about it is it isn't actually as noisy as this. If I do demonstrate it, there's your foil, there's this, it's much, much quieter. So once again, you can actually use this as a ground sheet protector or a way of retaining more heat inside your shelter. Finally, the thing about this is that it actually will pack away and go back down to the size that it started off as, if not even smaller. They're a superb item, and they're very much, if you like, the current survival bag for an emergency situation that people carry with them. I wouldn't recommend trying to sleep in one of these as a sleep system. Again, I've tried it many years ago in this, and it was one of my worst nights I ever had. I was freezing cold, thinking that would be the clever thing to do, get inside there with my sleeping bag, and I was so wet and miserable in the morning from condensation and moisture. It's horrible. But again, in a situation like this where we are now, this is the type of thing that I would probably just shove in the bag and leave in the bag all the time. It's always there, just in case I come across somebody else that might need the assistance, or, as I say, unfortunately, if I should have a minor accident myself. But again, 100 grams, 500 grams, 50 grams. So it's a juggle, but you can see about capacity really. When it's packed away, it's fine. But when you've used it and want to put it away again, I'd thoroughly recommend these. And these are about 3 times the price of these are on the market. Now, that's sort of the bivvy bag situation. But now you're also looking at things called bothy bags. Now, a bothy bag, there are 2 sort of types on the market at the moment. These are the smaller ones. These are the 2-people ones. This one is sil nylon. And it's made by Integral Designs, and so is this one. This one is not sil nylon, this is sort of normal nylon, shall we say. And you can see the size of the bulk there in comparison to pack away. This is about 280 grams, I believe, and this is 400 grams. They're physically pretty well the same size. Now, what a bothy bag gives you, let me just open up the heavier of the 2. What a bothy bag gives you is something I've found to be extremely useful over the years. You've got basically a small shelter that's big enough for 2 people. It is about, get it the right way around, it's about 1.5 meters long, 0.5 meter wide and 1 meter high. And that gives you roughly a little box shape. There's a reflective strip there on either end, so obviously in emergency situations people can see you from a distance, but it gives you a box shape about this size. On top of that, you've got, well, there you go, got a little window, which is always very pleasant to see, of course, and you've got a couple of ventilation holes as well, vent holes. Now, why is this useful? Well, in a particularly a day like this, if I wanted to get out the wind and just sit and use it as a wraparound, obviously I'm facing into the wind now, which is not the sensible way of doing it, but I've got space here. Now, the reason I've taken a liking to this type of item is due to the fact that some of the walks that I've done on my own, being a solo walker, you tend to push on a bit too much sometimes and get very tired and sort of disorientated and not eating enough and drinking enough and stopping for enough rests, which you do, I think, a lot more when you're actually in a group or with a partner. And there's been a couple of occasions where I really could have done with one of these to get my head together because I was getting disorientated, and all you do is pull it over the top of you in the rucksack. Where's the window? There's the window. Pull it at the top of the rucksack and kneel on. There's a little ledge here on one side and there's a ledge on the other side, so I just kneel on those like that, pull it over me, and I'll get out of the weather enough to warm up slightly and think about what's going on and look at the map. You'd be surprised just how useful they are, but also how warm they can be as well. And certainly They come in, this is the smallest size they come in, a sort of a 2-person one, but they also get into much bigger groups, which is ideal if you're taking a group of children up or a social group, and you can get 8 people in there. So the idea is you kneel down, you pull it over you in the rucksack, and you just sort of sit on the lip that they're to sit on and gather your thoughts. It just gets you out of the weather for a bit. You can work out what you're doing, look at your map, have something to eat even. But I've been in a couple of places where, particularly in Scotland, where it's been a complete open landscape and the weather has been like this, and rain as well. It's just miserable and you just want to get out of the shelter somewhere, and these have proved to be extremely popular. So I always carry one of these now when I'm doing that type of trip. The other thing about it is it's got several uses, you know. If you're just having a picnic, for example, you don't have to sit underneath it and enclose yourself. You can sit in it like a shell, if you like, so it just comes round you. And several times, Rose and I, and when I've gone with other people as well, we've sat with our back to the wind, sat in this, wrapped it round us, and had a very, very comfortable few minutes or half an hour looking at the view or whatever, rather than being battered by the wind and the rain. The difference between the sill nylon and the nylon version, apart from obviously the material, is the sill nylon one doesn't have the window, but it's physically the same size, and as you can see, it packs down to a much smaller item. The other thing about these, as I say, you can also use them as this is looking for the bag to put it back into. You can also use them as a under the ground sheet lining, and there we go, underneath the ground sheet to keep you a bit warmer. You can use them to, if you're perhaps bivvying, put your rucksack into and wrap your rucksack up so it's not going to get too wet in the rain. There are a whole variety of uses for these particular items, and it's down to you really to decide which way that you want to use them. So there you go, that's all stashed away now. A bit of effort to force it back in, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So there you have it. So you've got the sill nylon version and you've got the plain nylon version. As I say, there's a couple of 100 grams in it, but when you think about it, you could take this at 100 grams, that at 280 grams, and it would still be lighter than that. And you've got all sorts of opportunities to, or variations on how you might use it. How you would use each individual thing really is down to the end user. Depending on what type of walk you've got. As I say, something like this on the Malvern Hills with the weather like it is, I might just take space blankets as a just in case, that is a just in case. It's more a case of coming across somebody else that's had a slip, and we've had quite a few falls over the years of people that have slipped wearing their Sunday finest, and they've gotten to serious mess by the time the emergency services get to them, and a very, very minor injury that turned into something much more serious. If we're doing the TGO challenge in Scotland, then this is more likely the item I'd take with me. Very, very useful for exactly what I say, getting out the wind, and also using as a liner, an underliner for whatever shelter I'm using as well, or just as an additional bit of survival equipment. I might possibly take that as well, but if I've got one, generally I don't take the other, and it depends whether I'm walking on my own or with a partner. Well, I hope this video is of some use to you, helping you decide what type of emergency equipment you need to take with you for your next trip. And obviously the bulk and the weight of it, as well as the performance of what it will actually do, is very, very important to you. If you want to see some more videos, there's plenty more over on theoutdoorstation.co.uk, where you will also find over 350 audio podcasts, all based around the outdoors lifestyle and self-powered travel. The audio podcasts have actually reached an audience of over 3 million people so far, so please feel free to download those. They are free, and you can also find them through iTunes. So there you have it. Please feel free to subscribe to us. All the content is of course free over on iTunes or on theoutdoorstation.co.uk. Until next time, take care out there. Bye for now.